Install Megaranger.
Shodo!
Happy Power Rangers Day, Soto population. As always, I'm your host, Frozen Stratos, and today we are absolutely going to be talking about the brand new blog that came out from the Shodo Super Team, and it's pretty great. So the latest prototypes for this team came in, and now we're going to do a bit more of a breakdown, a bit more in-depth than what we saw before. So without further ado, let's take a look at what we got.
Mega Red! Mega Black! Mega Blue!
Mega Yellow! Mega Pink!
Mega Silver! Denji Sentai! Megaranger!
That's right, this is the full Megaranger team, and like I said, these are the latest prototypes, so things have changed since we last saw them. There were a few items up in the air that we didn't know, that even the team didn't know we were going to be getting, and we will get to that once we're there. But before all that, I believe the pre-orders are already done for this. But if you want, you could check back at Toku Collectibles. Maybe they have the listing still up. I'm not 100% sure at the time, whenever you decide to check in on this. But either way, at the end of this, you might want a second set, and I am sorry I couldn't get this information out to you earlier. But, like I said, let's take a look. And also, on top of that, like on top of even the Megarangers, we're going to be taking a look at the base body and how it will be changing from this point onward. So, let's sort of move on into the Megaranger specific things. The chest squares, or they kept calling them chest squares in the blog, but they're clearly rectangles. So the chest rectangles are individually painted and are incredibly crisp. They talk about the solution in a later portion of this blog, but just note that it was a journey to get even here. At one point, we might have gotten stickers, but we'll talk about that later. Another thing, though, they could have easily painted the belt piece, but instead they decided to go for a sticker here. I know it's an option that some people are going to scoff at and not be too happy about, but what they really wanted to do was get the correct sheen on the belt piece, because in the initial suit, on the actual suit, it is more of a reflective chromy gold, so they wanted to get as close to that as possible, and they decided to use stickers for that, and I think it looks good. Now, let's talk about the changes to Shodo Super specifically. The major one is that the head is a different diameter of plastic. We are used to PVC plastic, but there were a few reasons that they wanted to change and move away from the PVC plastic. It was that softer plastic, so now instead of being able to mold it as one piece, this is molded as two separate parts. They did do their best to try to make that seam line hidden to the best of their abilities, but you know, you can still sort of see it. Hopefully in hand it doesn't look as egregious, and even here it doesn't look so bad. A major component to this was that if you've owned any of these, there were some sort of plastic swirling just as a result of using PVC plastic, and that's pretty much all gone here now that they've switched it to ABS, which is a harder plastic. Another thing they wanted to do with the PVC was like, hey, the helmet is supposed to have a different sheen than the actual suit itself, but, you know, it came with quite a few drawbacks, one of which is the price tag, because, you know, PVC, it is a bit more expensive to produce, and on top of that, they had to paint the whole thing. It would come out as one color, and then they'd have to put paint all over the whole item, but instead, now that they've decided to cast this with the rest of the body, that means they can save on the base color and only put the trim details. So they were pulling back on a lot of the, you know, on a lot of the paint apps here, and that was due to, you know, all the reduction of the price of yen, or not price of yen, but like the depreciation of the yen is really hitting, so they needed to pull back on a lot of that. And they kind of need to use a smaller PVC mold, because I believe that plastic is a bit more expensive. Anyway, now they said that a cost in reduction, or a cost of painted parts here was a factor in the reduction, but that does not mean that they skimped out on what they already have. The Black Ranger specifically has the extra silver ring on the head, just because like it wouldn't look good otherwise. So they wanted to make sure that was in there too. Another issue they ran into was that, hey, Yellow's head, that color of plastic really blended into the white. So what they did was they actually painted the whole thing in a different yellow color. They're still working on it. It won't look quite as different as this, but you know, like I said, they're still working on this one. Anyway, another thing that they wanted to switch up here was the belt piece. Now, initially, with all the other releases, the belt has been part of the crotch mold, but now they've decided to separate this. And they've seen this in other figures before, where you place down the belt and then you sandwich the torso in between. Initially, since the belt wouldn't move, it left a gap in the torso. They noted that, hey, maybe this isn't really something that other people cared about, but it was something that they took note of and wanted to improve on. So basically, all you can do now is move it up so that you can mitigate that gap, which, you know, it's nice. I appreciate it, but also right above it, there's just this huge gap between the pecs and the abs, and it's just... look, I appreciate it. Moving on. Something that, I don't know. I don't know how people will take this information. Maybe it's a net positive, maybe it's a neutral. But either way, we are moving away from physical instructions in order to give us some web instructions. So, basically, as the line went on, they realized, oh, shoot. There are way too many instructions on here. Everything's getting either cramped or we're adding way too much paper to this. Paper, ink, all that stuff. If we put it online, we can make it colorful and we can make it easier for people to read. And that was the solution they decided to go for. So from here on in, we will only be getting electronic instructions. Now, if you happen to lose your instructions, it's okay. Because there's going to be a QR code on the box, yes. But if you go to the Bandai Candy Toy website itself, on the calendar, if you look up this product, it will be made available on there, or at least that's how it's been since, you know, other lines have switched to this. They've also noted that other lines have switched to this, so it isn't so jarring of a move. And you know what? For the sake of clarity, I also appreciate this. So hopefully that leads to just an easier time using these products. Anyways, that's it for, I guess, the overall changes to Shodo. Let's take a look at Mega Silver specifically. Now, I was saying at the top of this that there were a few things left up in the air from the last blog. The main thing that was on my mind and was on the mind of the guys doing the blog was, hey, the chest pattern is kind of difficult to print. What are we going to do? Are we going to do a sticker? Are we going to do whatever? It turns out they were actually able to make this, I don't know if it was tampo printed or just painted. This looks tampo printed. But either way, it's made without the sticker. On top of that, they were able to add these like black pinstripes to the gold just as an accent trim, and it works so well. All this stuff just looks really amazing, especially at this scale. Also, just as a result, since it was so late in the game that they figured out that they could actually put the paint apps on these chest rectangles, they kind of left the initial grid pattern stickers in the sticker sheet, so if you wanted to, you could use these instead. I do notice that these are a bit thicker than the stickers themselves, so if this presents a better option for you, that's there for you. Either way, here they are side by side, and you can also tell that there was a change in color from the last one. I believe it's a lighter plastic now, and I think it looks good. I thought the other plastic didn't look quite right. Here it's better. I think lightening up the plastic made it appear shinier, but you know, we'll see. Anyway, that's not all for this guy, because hey, it turns out those pinstripes continue to the back of the figure, which is good. The only issue they're running into now is making sure that the stripes line up once you sandwich the figure together. That's something they're still working on, but I'm confident that they'll be able to put something together for that. Also, just like with yellow, Silver here has his head completely painted in a different color, because at least with this one they wanted to differentiate the Silver from the rest of the body. So this looks very good. I really appreciate this. Now, I will say the gold could be a bit chromier. It could stand to be a bit chromier, but like, we've never gotten chrome before. Maybe that's something you'd have to do on your own using the chrome Gundam markers, but this presents a pretty decent option anyway. Moving on, let's talk about some weapons. So, it turns out that there are a lot of combinations that these weapons can make, but due to the size of this toy line, they were only able to make a few of the combinations physically work. So let's take a look at each Ranger and see what all went down with each of them. So here is the Drill Saber. This looks very good. It's a decent size. The only sticker here seems to be at the tip, and if you smooth it down, it gets all those details in there pretty well. On top of that, you can swap out the pointed tip for the, I guess you would say, the combined version, I guess, like the extra little pincers at the end, and then plug it into a dedicated version of the blaster. And yeah, it looks pretty good. All this stuff looks pretty good. This one works just about as intended. Aside from, you have a brand new mold for this blaster weapon that isn't quite accurate on its own, but I'm sure we're getting the blaster on its own separately. So this is a combining only version of the blaster. Anyway, that's it for Red's weapons. Let's take a look at Black's. And this is where the combination starts to waver, because this is a very long weapon that quite frankly does not condense its matter and shove itself into another gun. So obviously this makes a lot of sense. Also, the staff itself is pretty big, so this is a substantial weapon right out the gate. Mega Blue is much the same. His tomahawk, I mean, an argument could have been made that you could plug the end into the tip, but I don't know. I think this looks pretty good. The tomahawk is decently sized as well. Moving on, we have silvers. We have yellows, and it appears that there is a separate piece that you could use that plugs into the back of this weapon, and it is not the slingshot that you see there. Also, the string was omitted. A lot of the string type weapons, like any sort of bows or anything, a lot of those strings are omitted, and it makes sense. It would have been a relatively small piece. Also, Pink has, a little bit more of the interactivity here. She also has a, swappable only version of the gun. You can swap out the dish. The dish itself does have the 4 little holes in it like it should. So that looks very good. And those parts combine, so you can put it into the, what is this called? The multi-attack rifle. And you have to install the pink and the yellow parts in here to make that work. The inner chunk, that's all its own thing. Anyways, with all these weapons, you can even recreate the intro opening if you would like. So that's it for the main team. Let's take a look at Silver's loadout, and it's pretty good. So what happened here is that there is a bracket that's shared between the gun mode and the blade mode. obviously there wouldn't have been a way to get this thing from blade mode to gun mode with a hinge, because there's a blade there that needs to be accounted for. So this option works out just fine, and it looks pretty good on the figure itself. That bracket there, that was a bit of a challenge. They didn't quite know how to, I guess, tackle that without it being a separate part. And since it is a separate part, it makes it easier for you to put the hand in and onto the grip, and then place that bracket on, and then from there you place the hand into the arm stump where that was. So yeah, it looks pretty good. They were able to recreate that sort of wraparound look that they were going for. I really appreciate this. And I'm so glad this weapon, you know, looks as good as it deserves to, barring the stickers. Some people might have an issue with these stickers. I'm okay with it. Moving on, let's take a look at the Battle Riser. Yes, it is included, and the way that you swap this thing on is that you basically take out the arm stump, like the full forearm, and swap it into the new one. And it turns out all of them have this. There are 5 of them included. That means there's a brand new female mold that is smaller. You just have to look at the size of the hole in this, because the female one is going to be a little smaller. That's how you indicate which one to put on who, if ever you accidentally swap them in between each other. But yeah, anyways, speaking of swappable, I guess, forearms, let's take a look at the swappable wrists, because we have a brand new angled hand. Now, in Shoto Super, we are typically treated to a bevy of hand options, so something here has changed a little bit. We still get quite a lot of hand options. There's a base amount of hand options, but there are also extra hand options that are specific to this team, that's going to be included in a separate piece. So each of them will get their own sprue full of hands, but there's going to be a separate Megaranger specific sprue that all those other hands go on, and that's going to be a different durometer of plastic. But the main set of hands that everyone's getting, they've added an angled hand to, so that probably means that going forward we're going to be getting angled hands just as the baseline, and this looks pretty great in practice. It works out because, you know, there are plenty of handheld weapons in Sentai that have this sort of angled look in mind. Anyways, let's take a look at the ABS molds that we got, and we're starting off with Pink. Now, Pink actually gets a great deal of hand options throughout this. This main one is for her transformation pose. Red also gets the pointing finger, because that's, you know, very iconic for him. Yellow gets the 2-finger point. That looks pretty good. It's a bit chunky, if I'm honest, but I think it looks just fine. And the main reason that I guess Pink is going to be getting a lot of extra items here is because she has the 2-piece signs. Yay! That looks pretty neat. I do appreciate these, and she's technically the only one that gets like a left and a right version, because for those previous hands, those only came in the right hand. This comes in right and left because, you know, that's the iconic look. Anyways, these are all going to be made available in the set. Now, you might be noticing that there are a few chunks left out of these hands. That's because, you know, just due to how ABS plastic is done, it needs like that extra relief hole, but don't worry, they're going to be supplying us with, like, you know, cover pieces in order to fix that up and make it look a little nicer. We're just not seeing that here yet because I guess that's not done. Either way, that's it for the hands. Let's take a look at the final accessory, the Cyber Slider. These are fantastic. They had to move a lot of stuff out of the way in order to make this happen. Just rearranging molds, rearranging stuff inside the box, but they were able to make it happen, and for every single one in the set. So Another thing is that these are very simply molded pieces. This is one mold. This is one part. There are no two pieces you sandwich together. No, this is one part and it's light. That means you can actually put this on a display stand. Here it is on the Shokugan base. So that's an added benefit. I know it would probably be more substantial if it was heavier, maybe a little bigger, but I do appreciate the lightness that this gives it so that you can actually, play around with it a little easier. Also, while we're talking about it being a single piece, there's going to be some emptiness back here, but that leaves room for 3 peg holes, so you can put that on the display base however you'd like. Also featured here is the foot peg, and it works right in line with every single Shoto Super foot cutout. So that's really cool that it plays with that aspect of it. And it just looks really good on display. Now, are you ready for a Shoto Super exclusive? That's right, this is the Mega Silver Cyber Slider and not the Auto Slider. There were a lot of things, like if they wanted to do a very correct Auto Slider, it would have costed way more and, would have raised the price point a bit too high, especially for a very specific mold like that. So instead, they opted to use the same mold and make a Shoto Super exclusive Cyber Slider. So what they're saying is, hey, we know this is wrong, but we didn't want to leave Silver out of this very awesome looking set. So they wanted to make sure he had something to ride, even though they know it's not accurate. So hopefully that means either that's on the table later down the line if they wanted to do a Silver Cyber Slider, or something else of that nature. Who knows? Either way, that is it for these Cyber Sliders here. Well, actually, they did also want to mention something about the sticker, because it is difficult. Now, if you've experienced Candy Toy for any amount of time, you'll know that just due to how stickers work, the die cut doesn't always line up quite right with the printed on details. So what that means is that if you anchor it to the wrong corner, it might not apply the sticker fully correctly, and since this sticker is such a large one, there's a decent amount of room for error. So what they want to impart to you is that you'd want to anchor the sticker based on the main, I guess, the little badge in the center there, that little logo. You want to anchor it to that, and then from there swipe down and then smooth out from there to make it look a little bit better. Anyway, if that doesn't make sense, this GIF is available on the Bandai Candy Toy website and also on the Twitter thread. Take a look in the description down below. Hopefully that'll help you a little bit better. Anyway, moving on, let's talk a little bit more about stickers. I know it's people's least favorite thing about these toys, but these are a little more neat. It turns out that there are stickers included to turn these into the fake Megarangers. And that's very cool because...
なんだこいつら。
どういうつもり？
そこまでだな、メガレンジャー。
お前ら一体。
貴様らを地獄に送ってやる。
That's right, they've given us the teaser for the Nezirangers, and basically that's what these stickers kind of are. They didn't try to... They weren't intending for these to be extra fake Megaranger stickers, but way early on they were like, hey, we don't know if we can actually make the colors on these rectangles work right, so let's add them to the sticker sheet. And then they realized, oh hey, we can paint them, we'll just raise that detail and make it easier for them to paint. Great, but we still had that space in the sticker sheet left, so you know what, let's do something fun with it and tease the Nezirangers in these. and it just worked out because they want to give us these figures. Now, this is the male and female mold of the Nezirangers. And so far, so good. The reason they wanted to talk about these so early is because they recognized that some people had seen the Cop Patros from the Dairanger set, and were like, oh man, if I knew that these were the villains were coming out, I would have bought into Shodo Super. And by that time, Shodo Super had already come and gone for Dairanger. So this is basically them saying, hey, we're doing the Nezirangers. Please, if this was a make or break for you, pre-order this now. So, if you want, if they're still available, make sure to get yourself some Megarangers to go with these Psycho Rangers, the Nezirangers. They look very good, and I can't wait to see what goes on with them. I believe the pre-orders may have already gone down in Japan, then you might be able to score some pre-orders somewhere else. I'm not 100% sure. But either way, I believe it was 135 on Toku Collectibles. So, yeah, keep that in mind when you're searching for these online. Anyways, I believe that is it for this set. I'm very excited to see it. I can't wait to see more. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not had your fill of Kamen Rider Candy Toy, that wasn't even Kamen Rider. If you haven't had your fill of candy toys at all, in general, there's going to be another video going up tomorrow about the Gotchard stuff that went up for Gashapon. But if that is not fast enough for you, we have an episode last week talking about all the Soto Kamen Rider Drive figures and everything that's going to be coming out with that. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a happy Power Rangers Day. Keep it. Ugh. I'll see you next time.